Hey everybody, it's Joric. Welcome back. I hope you're doing great wherever you are in the world. Something that we got asked quite often when we lived in Portugal and now that we are back in the States is for those that are looking to move to Portugal, what visa should we be on or what should we look to obtain? And I made some videos when I lived over there on the different types of visas and what the process was and the impact. But we were on a work visa, so different than 99% of you watching this video are going to be looking for one of two visas, a D7 visa or a D8 visa. So I want to go through and first, if you're on either one, please leave a comment. Would love to get some information on how you thought the process was, the immigration. Did you choose the right visa? Was the D7 or D8 visa right for you? And I want to go into a little bit of what each one is, some of the similarities, some of the differences, so that you can parse out and figure out if you're looking to move to Portugal, what might make sense for you to live there. So let's start out with the D7. Most of you are going to watch this video are going to probably do the D7. It's meant more for retired or people on a pension. Although you can have a little business with the D7, it's really meant for passive income. So things like dividends, pensions, royalties, rental income, that's what you would be drawing upon to be able to satisfy the D7 visa. And the great thing is, each year, it just has to satisfy that income that you're bringing in, has to satisfy Portugal's minimum wage. And I didn't put the amount in because each year it kind of goes up a little bit. I'll do the number for 2025 on the D8, but for 2025 on the D7, as long as you're meeting that minimum threshold on what minimum wage is per month in Portugal, you're good to go. So you don't have to really worry about much, to be honest. It's a low threshold to meet. The D8 visa, on the other hand, is meant more for you're still in the workforce. And maybe you were not able to get a job in Portugal, so you had a work visa with a work contract with a company that's tied to Portugal. These are for people that are looking to work maybe a year or two in Portugal, but you can't work for a Portuguese company. It has to be a company outside of Portugal. And it's a temporary visa, meaning D7 is as well, but it means that maybe you're only going to be there for a year, then you're going to go someplace else for a year, and then someplace else for the year. Hence the title, the digital nomad visa. It's meant to capture people for a 12-month period and then they're gone. I wanted to talk about some of the similarities between the two visas. So the immigration process is pretty similar. You have to show income, whether it be passive for the D7, or you have to show contracts. If you're working for a company, you have to provide the contract and show that you're making the minimum to meet the requirement for the D7. Or if you're self-employed, you do have to show contracts and I shouldn't say pay stubs because you're not working directly with them, but in bank statements that satisfy that income level per month to be able to qualify and get approved for the D7. You do need a 1-year lease. So wherever you're going to be in Portugal, you do need to secure that 1-year lease. There are some other requirements. There's some difference in costs to be able to get the D7 and D8. I will say some of the difference comes in if you want to choose to have a solicitor or an attorney, a lawyer, look over and help guide you through the process. I would recommend it. Now, if you speak Portuguese, maybe you wouldn't need that, but we didn't before we moved. So we wanted to make sure we had someone that had a lot of knowledge, immigration knowledge of how Portugal works. So we were able to find a Portuguese attorney in Lisbon that helped us throughout that process. I would highly encourage you to do that because they're going to know all of the ins and outs of how the immigration works, and most likely you might not. And also with that, helping you to determine is the D7 or D8 visa right for you. And I'll explain that a little later in the video. but there are many similarities with that. And then I discussed the income level. The thresholds for D7 are much lower than D8. But of course, the whole intent is the D7, you're retired, you're on a pension, you're not working anymore. D8, you're still in the workforce. And again, for whatever reason, you want to move to Portugal, but maybe it's temporarily and you don't want to be tied to a business contract, meaning working for a Portuguese company directly and doing the work visa. You just may want to be there for a year and then go someplace else. But with those, that brings up the next point, I think a very key point. There are thousands of people that are going to move to, maybe tens of thousands of people that are going to move to another country this year or when you watch this video. Or they're thinking about it and they're in their last, let's say, 2 or 3 years of working before being retired and being on their pension. So what is difficult about Portugal is that they do not have a transition process. So let me give you a scenario. You're 60 years old, you live in the United States, and you want to go over and try Portugal out. Your company has allowed it so that you can live there and work remotely. So you're doing the D8 visa. But your plan is you're 60 right now, you're going to retire at 62, so in a couple of years. At that point in time, let's say you got the D8 visa, so age 60 to 61, you're on the D8, age 61 to 62, you're on the D8. Ding, you now hit early retirement in the US. You want to do that, so you're going to look to not work anymore, but you're still on the D8 visa, which is tied to active income, either for consulting or all the money you're bringing in for being self-employed or being actively working for a company outside of Portugal. But you're going to retire. So your thought is, well, I'll just transfer my D8 because I've already spent a couple of years in Portugal. I'll get a D7 and I'll be good to go. And then I only have 3 more years to go on the D7 before I can qualify for permanent residency or citizenship. Well, the bad news of that, and this is coming from Portuguese attorneys, the Portuguese government, and we had a representative just up the street from us that I was able to verify this because I kept asking this question. Please tell me if someone spent 3 or 4 years on the D8 and then they went to the D7, they would only spend 1 to 2 years on the D7 and then be able to apply. And he said, it's just not the case. If you transfer from one visa to another, the whole service time of the time starts over again. And that's a difficult bah humbug, and it does make one think about, well, I'll work the next couple of years in the home country that I'm in, and then just go into Portugal on the D7 because I can't transfer from one to the other. So, and the reason that we know this is that we were on the work visa and we were thinking, okay, let's go and transfer to the D7. So in speaking to our attorney, and said, well, the process starts over again, as does your time. So it makes no sense to be there for 3 or 4 years and then, let's say, retire and go to a D7, because then you got to spend 5 years on the D7, which means you could be there 8, 9 years in total before you even start the permanent residency or citizenship process. So that's something that I hope in time Portugal does get figured out. But if you're on the D8 visa or D7, comment below because I'm curious to see what your thoughts are on, have you thought about moving from one or the other? I ran across a couple of people that are on the D8 visa and they're staying in Portugal for the time being, and they kind of hemmed and hawed because they knew they couldn't go from D8 to D7. I hope I didn't say that earlier. They're on the digital nomad visa. They're looking to go to the D7. And they decided, we're just going to keep getting the 1-year renewal on the D8. Once we hit the 5-year mark, we can apply for residency or citizenship. And that is also something that's similar between the D7 and D8. After you've hit that 5-year mark, that 5th anniversary, then after that, on either visa, you can apply for permanent residency, which I believe would be every 5 years getting renewed, or you could go through the citizenship process if you wanted to get that another passport. But the difficulty is that I think the difficulty of Portugal is that when people move, they really like it. So although the digital nomad is meant to be skipping stones from year to year, from country to country, often when people come to Portugal, they'll go, might want to be here for a few years. And that's okay. Now, if you're not looking to go through the permanent residency or citizenship, you spend 2 or 3 years and you go someplace else, get on someone else's digital nomad visa. Now, the couple of people that I know that have the D8 visa, and I apologize if I keep skipping around there, the D8 is when they are on that visa, or once they got it, they feel like they're on their hamster wheel of always being in immigration, or they got a few months on their new D8 renewal, and now they're going through, and their attorney contacted them going, hey, a few more months, you got to start applying and get the renewal process going on your D8. Whereas the D7, you only have to do a couple of renewals before you get to that 5-year mark where you can start the process if you want to for permanent residency or citizenship. So again, some of it is more pragmatic where you are in the workforce, if you're retired or still working. I think Portugal is a great idea either way if you can get over on a D8 or a D7. The difficulty, though, is if you're in the last couple of years, if you know you're in your last couple of years of employment and you're going to be transitioning to passive income or retirement pension, the process starts over if you're on the D8 going to the D7. Again, I really hope Portugal's government at some point will make it more easily. We're not talking about a lot of people, and you're also talking people if they want to be in Portugal and are going to continue to pay taxes along the way and want to be a part of the culture, being able to change or make the transition between visas a little more easy, I think is reasonable. I'm sure there may be some reasons why that isn't happening. I don't know. Maybe you can comment and let me know if you know best on that, because I don't. But both options are a great way to get to Portugal if you don't have the opportunity to do a work visa, which we were extremely fortunate to be a part and be able to do that. As always, I hope this information is helpful to you as you're looking to make decisions. As people are looking to move to Portugal, please reach out to me. We have a lot of information that we can give them on our experience there, good, bad, or otherwise. And as always, thank you so much for watching and enjoy your travels.